Welcome to the SWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
All right, so welcome to another edition of the Student Corner of the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. I'm happy to have Revant again here, and I think you had a topic that we wanted to talk about.
Yes, I had a few topics in mind, such as Frosh and living on residence, and I'd like to know your thoughts and compare it to how it was maybe like 20 years ago. When were you at college?
Yeah, thanks for pointing out how old I am, but yeah, I mean, it was a different experience. So I don't know if you want to go first and share kind of your more relevant experience, and then we can go back, or do you want to go chronologically and I go first and then you? How would you like to do things?
Of course. So maybe I can focus on, maybe we can do a compare and contrast. I'm going to start off with how I was at Frosh and Objective Frosh. So at Frosh, I came to make more friends. I came because I was a shy person and I wanted to come out of my comfort zone and I wanted to interact with more people. As you know, I'm an international student, so I barely had any friends, and I that is the only reason wherein I came to Frosh and connected with so many more people. What was your main objective behind coming to Frosh?
Well, for me, Frosh was one of those things that people talk about, part of the university experience. Everyone kind of parties and has fun and all that sort of stuff. It was different in my day. So back in the day, we actually had grade 13, right? So we graduated a year later. So actually, people, some of them were old enough to drink during that time. So there, on occasion, was alcohol involved. Now, I don't think any of the ones that were sanctioned by the university had them, but oftentimes were like after parties or get-togethers by the student association, and things could be a little different, right? So, but for me, I mean, I didn't have a great experience with alcohol during high school, right? I get what's called like the Asian flush, where I turn like bright, beet red when I drink, and I get super tired, right? Very lethargic type of thing. Plus my like heart kind of beats like a mile a minute. So with those things where like my body's going crazy, but I can't move, it's not a great combination. So I didn't really want much of that in Rosh. So those activities I stayed away with, and yeah, I was trying to make friends, trying to connect with people, but I was pretty shy and introverted. There wasn't really a lot of people that I connected with. There's only one person that I knew that went to that school, and she went to a different school, a different high school originally. But we connected, and I kind of stuck with her, and we built a few friends that we connected with over the few days of Frosh, and yeah, tried to get to know each other. But to be honest, like you said, it was 20 years ago, so I don't really remember too much about it. I do remember there was like a juggler, like he taught us to juggle, which I found myself that I actually was able to juggle in a couple of minutes. Right now, I lost it, and I haven't practiced much of it, but I thought that was fun, just because I was able to do it, and I didn't realize I could. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it was an event. There's a bunch of things. I know we like walk down the streets of Toronto yelling a whole bunch of chants that the leaders forced us to do, right? Probably more inappropriate than they do today. But yeah, and then there were different sort of get-togethers that kind of uh, guided us from this event, and okay, now you go over here, now you go over there. So it was a bit of a whirlwind of stuff that, again, I don't really remember it, but I do remember coming out with a couple of good friends that stuck with me, at least for the first term or stuff. And yeah, I guess during that time, that was when I had met my at that time ex-girlfriend, or girlfriend at the time, now became an ex. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. But yeah, being a bit of a mama's boy and commuting to school, it was different because I would have to do that and then go home, do that and then go home, do that and go home. But I think you probably had a different experience because you were on res. Like, was it different because you got to stay on campus the whole time?
So by the time Frosh had started, I didn't get the possession of my residence. So I was staying in a hotel, and I had to also commute. I think I was staying in downtown, so I had to commute all the way to the downtown. Maybe sometimes the events would get over at midnight, and I think a lot has changed over 20 years, such as no drinks are allowed now. Instead, to compensate for that, they give a lot of pizza and try to make us happy in that sense. And I think there was a similarity that you guys used to go on the streets in downtown and cheer and do all that stuff. I think that hasn't changed until now, because even last year when my Frosh had taken place, we did the same things. And I think we only went downtown once as a part of cheering, but it was always in Scarborough campus. And I would often get very bored and disinterested, and I would wander somewhere else. Like I would go and enjoy the weather out there by myself, or I would take a few friends who were also getting bored in the act of cheering. Even they wanted to get away from it for a bit. So, what was one main swike for you in Frosh?
Oof. Going back, I think for me it would be getting out of my shell a little bit more. So I was kind of that shy, introverted computer scientist, the classic one. So being in a big group of people, that drained me. That had a lot of energy draining times where probably like you, I wanted to go off and be with myself for a little bit, or with a smaller group of friends, because it is a challenging time when there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are around you, and the energy levels dwindle quite quickly when that happens. But at the same time, I wish that I kind of pushed myself to probably meet more people. Introduce myself to other friends. I didn't really meet folks in my program, and maybe it's the artifact of being in computer science, where probably all computer scientists weren't really outgoing enough to connect with each other. So maybe that's the stereotype. But I'm sure there were a bunch of them. So I wish I probably connected with some and moved, because really I focus on that one group, like for I think it was a week or 4 days or 3 days or however long Frosh was. But it was kind of the same people that I hung around with all the time, right? I was when I got there, I found them and we kind of stuck together. And then the next day, I would look for them and we would hang out, and we would try to connect. So I guess for me, I wish I would have kind of walked around and found different folks. And maybe just experience a little bit more. So like I went home, even though they were doing like the drinking stuff and whatever. So maybe I should have hung out and see what happened, right? Try to figure out how to get over that kind of introvert extroverted stuff, right? So that's me. But overall, it was an experience. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, the thing that I really love doing, but that's what I encourage folks to do, to get out of their shell, especially if they're shy, introverted. Try to uh, go out of your way to connect with people, and see if you can just experience whatever Frosh and stuff has for you. So what about yourself? What are some of the things that you'd tell pre first year Revant and Frosh? What would you have him do?
My swike would be that I actually came to Frosh on the second day because I landed a little late. And um, on the first day, there were introduction activities when everyone mingled and everyone got to know each other. So I think I missed out on that, and that's why I never got the opportunity to introduce myself. And later on, when they put up a good concert and crazy hypnosis act, I was kind of lost because I only had a couple of friends. So my takeaway from that would be that if I would have been there on the first day and interacted with more people, then it would have turned out much better.
Was being there on the first day under your control?
It was not in my control, but I'd suggest that, I mean, I got delayed in my flight, and then like there were further consequences due to that, and that's why I couldn't reach on time. But however, like if I were to recommend to someone, then I'd definitely recommend that they shouldn't, miss the first day at Frosh, or even missing the last day is fine. But the first day is the day wherein everyone gets introduced to each other. They split up into groups, and it's just better to have so many acquaintances in the first day itself.
Right. So an actionable item might be to, if you're coming from overseas, plan to arrive at least a day or two early, so that in case there's like flight delays or something like that, then you have a little buffer time to settle in and what have you. So, okay. I guess a question that I have for you is those few friends that you met, like did you know them previously, or how did you end up getting those? Because even if you arrived on the second day, it seems like that you had folks around you, so that's good.
Yeah. So for me, I was a stranger in this country. I had definitely connected with a few people on social media. I met some people on social media, but I had just spoken to them a few times and I couldn't find them in Frosh. There were hundreds of people and it was difficult for me to keep a track because everyone is different on social media and I couldn't, like, I've actually tried communicating with a couple of people, but it doesn't happen because Frosh is an event where everyone is busy and doing something in different groups, doing something at some point. So it was kind of confusing then, but I think I connected with many people in Frosh, with which my friendship didn't continue for a long time, but there were a few people who I took, and I'm yet very close to them.
So walk us through kind of that second day, because a whole bunch of people connected on the first day. They got to know each other. They formed kind of informal kind of cliques and circles and stuff like that. Then you come in on day two, right? So how do you kind of break in, or how do you kind of start conversations with folks? Like what was some of the things that helped you and you'd recommend for folks to do? I guess if they're in that situation.
There were three groups, and then there were like five subgroups in each group at least. With my subgroup, I have interacted, but when I went there were many icebreaker activities, and everyone was super friendly. They got me involved, and then, but there was no kind of introduction like what I am and what they did on the first day. So I didn't get to do that. But the only way I mingled was during, let's say, lunch times, wherein we would have the freedom to go and meet whoever we wanted to. I would, stick with the people in my group who I had just started my friendship with, and then maybe just catch up over life and have like just ask them about their background and what program they're in, what they're looking to take forward, and what their prospects, what they're looking at in UTSC. So I would have those discussions with a few people over maybe lunch or snacks, and that's how I started getting to know more people. And then there were later on some activities, some sport activities wherein I took part, and just playing. When you're in a team, you start playing together. It's a team sport, so gradually, without any communication, you start becoming close to that person. I maintain contact with them.
And so it was really the kind of group setting that they put you in that kind of forced you to have those kind of initial contact, and those friends in that initial group, did they kind of stay with you even after Frosh and into your university career, or did you kind of find a different group of friends that you hung out with?
I had acquainted with many people, wherein I maintained contact with a few people who I really connected on a different level. Like, let's say they were in the same program as me, so maybe they were in the same classes as me. And then, majorly, the friends who I took along either were staying on res with me, or else they were maybe from my home country when a group was formed, or the friends who were in the same program as me.
Yeah, I think for me, I had a slightly different experience where actually the group of friends that I connected with in that first Frosh, like kept for the first term, because yeah, like I said, one of them ended up being my my girlfriend at the time, so we kind of stayed connected there. But we broke up kind of second term, and then I kind of turtled in my shell and basically did nothing between like the second term in my first year, and then my second year and my third year. I kind of disappeared off the map and just kind of stayed to myself. So yeah, it was an interesting time for me where yeah, I did develop some close friends at the time, but it was short lived and just due to circumstances and stuff. But those folks were actually from different programs, right? So they were actually one was, I think I was computer science, one was biology, one was English, and or a couple were in English and doing different things. And in our day, like we didn't really have like smartphones and the internet and stuff like that. So sometimes we'd have to use like things like pagers, and like cell phones were expensive in terms of like minutes and stuff like that, right? So it was you try to conserve your time that you actually talk to someone. So it was interesting to find ways to on how to meet each other or to bump into each other. So we'd always congregate in the same spot. But yeah, that's kind of my experience where it was more I was able to maintain those friendships, albeit short lived, but that's kind of due to circumstances and my choice. So Cool. So I think it sounded like a couple of the takeaways were, at least from myself, is to kind of get out of your comfort zone. So for the folks that are in Frosh, that try to, especially if you're shy, if you're introverted, to make the effort, because sometimes they can be close friends. Sometimes it ends up that you don't see them again, but you might bump into them and at least have a slightly broader network. And then from your perspective, I guess the SWIKE is more just make sure you're able to account for like flight delays and things like that, so that you can be part of everything that the university experiences. So the first day and the introduction stuff, because that probably would have helped set you up for like a different level of success there, right? So, are there any other things that you suggest for folks to take out of their Frosh week?
For instance, this is what my Frosh group has done, that we create a social media account and we added everyone in there so that everyone can, connect with each other on social media, and we yet maintain contact. We yet plan some activities, maybe once in 2 months or something.
Cool. So it sounds like the consistent message is to build those connections and make it easy for folks to reach out and connect and meet and up, and so that you can kind of develop those relationships into like meaningful ones ongoing. So that's great. Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at LukiDanu, LukiDanu, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.